We're doing an audio check for the Zoom participants. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great, thank you so much.
I would like to call the May 8th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. If you are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Halstead,
Here.
Commissioner Petty,
Here.
Commissioner Fikes is absent. Commissioner Barbaza,
Here.
Vice Chair Costin,
Here.
Commissioner Woodard,
Here.
Commissioner Twait.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
All right, would the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
You have approval of minutes, regular meeting of March 13th, 2024. You have new business action approval requesting an excused absence for the March 13th, 2024 regular meeting from Commissioner Petty. You have action approval recommending approval of a lease of airport reserved land for the property described as Lot 9A, Block 5, General Aviation Apron Subdivision Number 5. And you have action approval recommending approval of a lease of airport reserved land for the property described as Lot 5A, Block 1, FBO Subdivision 2018 replat, and that is your consent agenda.
Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items just read by the clerk? Seeing none, are there any revisions to the agenda? Seeing none, are there any objections on or approving the agenda or consent agenda? Hearing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. And we have no public comment. Unscheduled public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to anything that is not on the agenda?
If there's any members on Zoom who would like to speak to anything that is not on the agenda tonight, please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
Okay, we're going straight to public hearings. We have Resolution PZ 2024-08, granting a conditional use permit to 2 6-unit apartment buildings on the property located at 2150 Redoubt Avenue within the Rural Residential Zoning District. We have a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-08. And a second?
Oh, do you want me to say?
second.
Oh,
All right, Chair Twite made a motion, and Mr. Costa is second. Director Mitchell, can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead and Commissioners. Before we start, we did something a little bit different. So for those of you that are participating remotely, the presentations are on the meeting agenda site. So I'm going to give them a few minutes if they want to pull the presentation. This allows people who participate remotely be able to see what we're seeing here. So now it's going to be uploaded on our meeting agenda page. So hopefully they'll catch on here. So I'll go ahead and start. This is a resolution for a conditional use permit for a 2 6-unit apartment building, meaning there will be 2 buildings, a 6-plex of each at 2150 Redoubt Avenue. A little bit about the site. As you can see from the aerial in the staff report, it's located in the southeast corner here along Redoubt. Current use is vacant. Zoning right now is rural residential. The land use designation as identified in the comp plan or comprehensive plan is suburban residential. The lot size is approximately 1.32 acres. Why this is before you is in our land use table in the RR zone, anything of a sixplex or greater requires a conditional use permit. That is why this is brought before you. And you have probably seen similar projects like this from the Kenai Peninsula Housing Initiatives on those lots to the west. I have proposed recommended to the applicant to go ahead and ask for both buildings under one CUP so that they don't have to come back knowing that they anticipate to build the building to the east. So that's why they are proposing this project to be phased in one building this year and the next building the following year. Okay. Surrounding uses to the north and south are vacant. To the west, you have those other apartment buildings owned by Kenai Peninsula Housing Initiatives, and to the east, you have those subdivisions, West Haven subdivision and I can't think of it right now, but another residential subdivisions in the RS zone. This is the site plan of the first phase. In the darker line to the west side, to your left, is going to be the first building to be constructed, anticipated this summer, because we do have a building permit that has been submitted for this sixplex. And then you can see the hash mark, because I want to call out these space, if it's a little bit harder for you to see, is the landscaping, the proposed landscaping, perimeter landscaping around the building to the west and to the south. That is what's being proposed. Each of these units will provide 2 parking spaces as required by code, in addition to a parking island at the end as required by fire code. They'll provide that fire turnaround. And that will be constructed in phase 1, all the asphalt and that path for the fire turnaround and the building and landscape on the west side. And then you can see lightly to the east side is going to be that second phase. As well as in your packet is their floor plan of each of the units with their parking, their single car garage, and then the second parking will be in front of each one car garage. And I'll go back real quick. Some of these consist of 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. And here's the elevations. As you can see, as you drive down that driveway, this is what it will look like. They meet the building height requirement. Typically, our code allows 35 feet height for buildings. So this is just a single story. So it meets that requirement. So as with any conditional use permit, there are 6 criteria that needs to be met. First criteria being that it has to be consistent with the zoning district, in this case, the rural residential, and staff finds that it does meet this. The intent of rural residential is low density. As broken down in the staff report, there's a certain density breakdown. I won't go into technicality of it. Ultimately, the breakdown is they don't exceed that density requirement. In this zone, they're allowed 13 dwelling units per acre, but the proposed development only provides 9, so they're still shy of it. Therefore, in essence, it is a low-density development. In addition to that, in the land use table, and this is probably maybe new to most of you because this wasn't considered in the previous CUPs, is in the land use table, there's a footnote for the C. That footnote 3 says there's additional conditions to be considered when reviewing for anything 6 family dwelling units or greater. And I'm gonna speak on it when we go to criteria 6 to elaborate on that. And those are analyzed in the staff report as well. So with that being said, criteria 1 is met. Criteria 2 being economic and non-economic value of the adjoining property. I mean, primarily it's all vacant, it's all residential. This kind of fits it because our comprehensive plan anticipate that it's suburban residential, so it's not necessarily anticipated that this remains low density. With the comprehensive plan, it is anticipated this becomes a little bit low to medium density, something similar to what you see to the east of this project site. Criteria 3, proposed uses in harmony. I kind of elaborated on that. Honestly, when we adopted the 2016 comprehensive plan, we should, as a follow-up implementation, this area should be rezoned to RS to be consistent with the rest, because the surrounding areas, the comprehensive plan calls it as rural suburban residential. So as staff finds that it is in harmony with the comp plan. Criteria 4, public services and facilities are adequate to serve the proposed use. Yes, we have water and sewer lines along Redoubt. It's enough to provide for the previous development to the west. We don't see that this development of 2 6-unit apartment buildings are going to impact any less or any more than what's existing. Then criteria 5, proposed use will not be harmful to public safety. Parking is met, drive access, fire turnaround is met. We don't anticipate or see that this development will have adverse impact to the surrounding neighborhood and to the health and welfare of the community. And criteria 6, if there's any additional criteria that cannot be addressed to meet criteria 1 to 5, this is where we'd add them. Staff does not find that we need to add any additional to meet criteria 1 through 5 because some of the screening and site development and landscape will be reviewed during the landscape and site plan that is reviewed concurrently with the building permit plans. So now, to elaborate further in criteria 6, we're going to go back to that footnote in the land use table to footnote 3. So footnote 3, and I broke it down, similar layout as the criteria. First being usable area per dwelling unit shall be the same as that required of the dwelling units in the RS zone. I have search code everywhere. There isn't any reference to requirements for usable area per dwelling unit. Therefore, in this case, this code section doesn't apply and probably needs to be removed. The next code condition is B, and I follow the alphabetical so that you can follow through code as well. So B says the site square footage and area must be approved by Planning Commission. Site square footage, when we go back to density again, it meets it, so I don't think we need to really address the site square footage. It's adequate. It's on a 1.32 acre for 12 dwelling units. So therefore, staff finds that this condition is met. Condition C here says yards around the site, off-street parking, and other development requirements shall be the same as the principal uses in the RA zone. Fortunately, this project site is in the RA zone, so this is all met in the first discussions of criteria 1 through 5. And D, again, water and sewer facilities meet the requirements. This again was addressed in the previous criteria 1 through 5. And then we go to E, proposed dwelling group will constitute a residential area of sustained desirability and stability and will be in harmony with the character of surrounding neighborhood and will not adversely affect surrounding property values. Again, this is addressed when staff analyzed criteria 1 to 3, so it's met. And then condition F, buildings shall be used only for residential purposes and customary accessory use such as garages, storage space, and recreational and community activities. It's a residential use. Nothing else is being proposed, so this condition is met. Furthermore, jumping to condition G, there shall be provided as part of the proposed development adequate recreational areas to serve the needs of the anticipated population. So I want to elaborate on this a little bit. I can see why this condition is placed in here because when you have apartment complexes, you want to give them some space to kind of gather together or have that open space because now it's not a single family where you have your front yard, your backyard to do stuff. So I can see why this condition was placed in here. As you can find in your condition 3, staff is proposing that we require this development to provide at least a small open space for the residents. So if you look at the site plan in the northwest corner, northeast corner, some kind of open space, I would like to require that at least one of those open space be designated for that purpose. And then condition H, the development should not produce a volume of traffic in excess of the capacity for which the access streets are designed. Redoubt is a high volume street it's really like a arterial street leading to residential. So I don't see that staff does not find that this development would further create adverse traffic to the existing Redoubt Avenue. And then lastly, condition I, project adjacent to the proposed dwelling group will not be adversely affected. As noted before, surrounding uses are primarily residential and vacant. So staff does not find that this development would be adverse on the affected or surrounding neighborhoods. So those are all the criteria in footnote 3. I went through it because I couldn't find in previous staff reports that this was discussed. So I wanted to really show you that there are certain places in code that probably needs to be updated because this clearly has a lot of redundancy in what the CUP criteria are. So with that being said, staff finds that this proposed development meets the criteria for the conditional use permit, as well as footnote 3, subject to the listed condition, and recommend that your commission approve this CUP as proposed. And that concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any question, and the applicant is here remotely.
Thank you very much. Now hear the applicant's presentation.
Dana. She is unmuted. Dana, if you can hear us, you can go ahead and speak on your project.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say anything about it or if I was just available for questions, but yeah, so this development is another 2 phases of senior housing, just like we have on the other end of our lots there on Readout. This land was donated by the city of Kenai for this purpose. And like it's been presented, the proposal is for 12 total units of senior housing to go on this property in 2 phases. It's identical layout and site plan to the other 2 senior lots or senior properties on this same road. And yeah, we appreciate the consideration of a conditional use permit for another round of projects. If there's any specific questions to it, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to Resolution PZ 2024-08?
If there's any members on Zoom at this time who would like to speak, please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
Okay. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we will bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission. Commissioner Costa.
Yeah, I'd like to, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to say that I really look forward to seeing properties like this being developed, single-level houses for handicap, I shouldn't say handicap, but people with needs, a single-family building. So I think it may be a fairly affordable apartment as well. So it'd behoove us to see quite a few of these potentially in the Kenai area. I think that'd be a good thing for the city of Kenai to look into.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I actually, kind of following up to what Vice Chair Costin said, I'm wondering if the applicant could just maybe chime in on this. How great is the need for this? Do you have a waiting list already, or I mean, how do you? What's the process to put people in them? It just seems like it would be like Vice Chair Costin said, it would be something that we should be forward-looking to continue to make land available for this in the future. And I'm just kind of curious if you have any number on what the need is.
Yeah, I would love to speak to that. We have well over 45 individuals on our wait list for the Kenai area alone for our senior housing. And I think it's northward of 60 if you include persons who would prefer to live in Soldotna. Most people will prefer to live in Soldotna or Kenai for our senior housing properties. We also have hundreds of applicants that are on our waiting list for our low-income family units, our 1, 2, and 3-bedroom family units. These ones particularly are senior housing, so they're designated for residents 55 years age and older. All of the 6 units, or all of the 12 units in both phases, will be equipped for physical sensory mobility, so both hearing and mobility impairments. And there are 3 out of the 6 units in this development which are designated as low-income units for persons earning at or below 60% of area median income, with 2 of those properties having further subsidy that are for persons earning 30% or less of the area median income. And so that makes those units rents below $500. All utilities are included in these units. They are affordable. There are 2 market rate units in this property. so they do not have income requirements. A person can live in those households regardless of their income. And our mission of KPHI is to provide housing all over the Kenai Peninsula. We have housing from Seward all the way down to Homer, and everywhere in between. And our intention is to continue to develop in Kenai for as long as we can continue having land available to develop on. All of the properties we have developed in Kenai have come from, are developed on land that was donated to the city. Yeah, so we are totally happy to continue developing there. We'd love the opportunity to continue in this area where we've been developing and add another row of housing behind if the property remains available in the future to be donated. After these two senior projects, we have another lot in between that was also donated by the city that will be another 10 units of low-income housing, just like the lot next door up there. So it's multifamily housing consisting of 1 and 3 bedroom units, but that's not part of this CUP. That's our long-term goal or our long-term plan, just to paint the picture that yes, we are interested in continuous development of housing in Kenai and around the Kenai Peninsula in its entirety.
Thank you.
Commissioner Petty?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Ms. Gregory about, is this being subsidized by the federal government, ma'am?
It is not subsidized. We did, the development of the project is being funded largely in part by a grant from Alaska Housing Finance Corporation and a secondary grant from the Rasmussen Foundation. Otherwise, the rest of the funding for this project is coming from personal or from contributed funds from KPHI and a term loan for the remainder. So we do take out loans on these projects as well. Rents are not based on income in our developments, but there are income limits. And then we do accept the Alaska Housing Choice vouchers, which individuals can have to subsidize, to pay for part of their rent. And so it's not a direct subsidy to the building, but people can use housing vouchers that they can get from other organizations to subsidize their own rent.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? All right. Just to speak up on my side, I think it's a great opportunity. I've seen the developments that are going on that you've done in the past, and I think they've been a great opportunity for people to move in there. And there's always a need for some affordable housing. So I think that's great, and keep up the great work. And I'm definitely for this. So seeing no one else wishing to speak, can we get a call for a vote? Or unless anyone wants to do unanimous consent, we shall call for the vote.
Commissioner Twite,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Barbaza,
Yes.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin,
Yes.
Chair Alsted.
Yes?
Motion passes.
All right. Please note there's a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. Up next, we have Resolution PZ 2024-09, granting an encroachment permit for a residential detached accessory structure to encroach into the required west side yard setback on the property located at 3018 Bree Avenue within the Rural Residential Zoning District. Is there a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-09?
I'd like to make a motion of Resolution PZ 2024-09.
Second.
Excellent. Director Mitchell, can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead and Commissioners. And again, I just want to remind anyone that's joining remotely that you can pull up the presentation on the meeting agenda page. It is there saved as a PDF. Otherwise, I will go ahead and start. So this resolution is an encroachment permit. An encroachment permit is deviating from setback requirements as required by the development requirement table. This encroachment permit is being requested at 3018 Bree Avenue. So here you can see the aerial. It is zone RR, rural residential, comprehensive plan designated as low density residential. In that aerial map, I kind of outline the subject parcel in red, and then the same owner owns the parcel in yellow. The lot size right now is 0.65 acre. Current use is vacant. What the applicant is proposing is a one-story detached accessory structure to encroach into the 15-foot required side yard setback. Code does allow someone to build a accessory structure on a vacant lot subject to a CUP. However, there's limitations to it. You can only do so through a CUP for a detached structure on a vacant lot up to 400 square feet. And the structure cannot have a permanent foundation. The applicant is proposing a 28 by 40 foot structure, and I apologize, in my staff report it says 28 by 30. So approximately the structure is 1,120 square feet. So I just want to be clear on that. And also included in the packet is kind of their preliminary drawing of the structure itself and where it would be situated on this vacant lot. So a condition that needs to be required is the lots to be merged. That would be the only way to allow this detached structure to be located on this lot, is to merge it so that they can exceed that 400-foot limitation if it were to be built on a vacant lot. And I'll speak further into that. So in the RR zone, 15-foot required setback, what is being proposed is that it will be 6.75 feet away. In other words, it's going to encroach into that setback by 8.25 feet. Surrounding uses, northwest and east, are residential, and to the south you have Bree Avenue. And so it is hard to see from here, but in your packet you can see the preliminary drawing of the proposed structure, which would have covered parking as well. So you can see the footprint's a little bit larger than the 28 by 40. And from that corner, you'll be 6.75 feet away from that northwest property, not owned by the same owner. And so that is what they're requesting, this encroachment, to allow them to encroach 8.25 feet. In other words, they'll be 6.75 feet away from their neighbor's property line once these two lots are merged. So with any encroachment permit, there are review criteria being one, it's an encroachment, that it meets that definition. And our definition of encroachment means any object or structure constructed or located in a manner other than set forth in the development requirements table. Again, as the development requirement table for the RR zone says, the side yard setback is 15. And this is why they are requesting for this, to deviate from that. Criteria 2 says encroachment does not encroach upon a federal, state, city right-of-way or utility easement. We reviewed the plat. There aren't any right-of-ways that this detached structure would encroach upon, so therefore criteria 2 is met. Criteria 3, the issuance of an encroachment permit will not authorize a use which is not a principal permitted use in the zoning district. Again, this is a residential detached structure, and in order for this condition to be met, the lots have to be merged because the house is on the other lot and this would just be an accessory to it on the same lot. And so this condition will only be met subject to condition 2 being met. And then criteria 4, an encroachment is not located across a platted lot line. In other words, this structure will not cross a property line, and it will not. So the criteria 4 is met. And those are the criteria in order for your commission to approve this encroachment permit, and staff is recommending that your commission adopt this resolution subject to meeting the listed conditions. And that concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant or property owner, I believe, is online as well.
Yes, I'm online.
Okay. So can we have the applicant's presentation, please?
Yeah, I think everything was pretty much covered. The distances that she mentioned probably won't be the exact distances. They were just kind of how as close as I can get it using the KTV parcel viewer drawing feature. So it may be like 2 to 3 feet away from the property line, maybe closer to 4 or 5, but it won't be the exact 6.75. And I'm in the process of merging the two properties. The new plat should have been submitted to the city and the borough already.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak to Resolution PZ 2024-09? No one else? Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we'll bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission.
This is probably for staff, possibly the applicant. So if you look right down through north and south on lot 34, it shows an easement there that says C note 12, and the note says something about that it's being removed. So I want to clarify, is that easement removed now, or is it in the process of being removed?
Fred?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Twait. In your packet, there is an easement vacation plat that was recorded that shows that that was completed to remove that easement running through the property in the original plat.
So if that easement's no longer there, there seems like there's plenty of room to move the building away, since you're not trying to skirt around an easement. I'm just curious then what the reason is to put it where it's at instead of maybe farther north and where the lot gets wider.
I'm going to defer that to the applicant. Ryan, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I did. Where I would like to put it, closer than the 15-foot setback, is just for me the optimal spot to put the shop. The piece of property just to the west that I will be encroaching on, I would say that back about 1/4 to 1/3 of the property that my property shares the lot line with is all wooded. So I wouldn't be, building close to somebody's house. Their residence is all the way pretty close to the west side of that property. And my driveway coming in is kind of skinny. So just where I want to put the shop, it would be best like backing in trailers, that kind of thing. So for me, it would just be the optimal spot to put the accessory building.
Thank you.
Rather than being set back another 15 feet off away from my residence. And it'd be closer to my residence as well, less walking back and forth.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Commissioner Petty?
Yes, this is for staff. Just for greater understanding purposes, how is it that our setbacks are achieved? What's the criteria that makes those dimensions?
Thank you, Commissioner Petty. If I want to make sure I understand your question, are you asking how those setbacks are determined? Well, beyond my time, but typically setbacks are, based on the zoning, every residential zone, the way it should be designated as rural, lower density, you have a larger lot. So usually the setback's greater. As you go down in density, because you're saying higher density, you want it closer, otherwise you have spread out. So your urban residential, the setback I believe is 0 to 5 or something. Your rural suburban residential is 10. So this is I think how the city decided that this is the setback for the residential zone. Some cities have 10 all across the board, some have 5, and some have 0 in commercials where you don't want to create unusual space in between. So, you know, I can't say why 15 was the magic number for this, but it has been our standard, I believe, since the early adoption in the 80s, if I recall going back in the setbacks.
So with higher density properties, it's my understanding the setbacks are smaller, and so it's just somebody's kind of arbitrary. That's how it appears to me. So I graciously appreciate that insight to help me make a decision.
Commissioner Twait?
And maybe to follow up on that, Director Mitchell, I think it even gets a little cloudier than that, because I think then the height, single story, 2-story, the requirements get farther away, or a larger setback for a 2-story than a single story, I think, on top of that. Is that true?
It depends on the zone. Not all
Okay.
zone is the same. There is a couple of zones where it's literally the same, doesn't matter whether it's a half-story or 2-story. And I believe for the RR, it's the same across the board, but I'm happy, if you give me a minute, I will pull that up for you.
And then while you're doing that, just to follow up, and I guess it's more of a best practice thing, getting back to the fact that we could move this thing away and not have to deal with an encroachment permit. I know it's more convenient, and I understand all of that, but is that the best practice for us to do, or I'd like to have your expertise on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Twait, for that. So I'll answer your last question real quick. I have the development table. So in the RR zone, it doesn't matter whether it's a 1-story or 2-story. The side yard setback's the same all across the board. And then your second question, you know, I think the applicant pointed out some good things, some valid things that, you know, there are existing driveways there, and I wouldn't rely on the aerial map to be a good indicator where the property line is. They are trying to propose it true to kind of close as much as to the existing driveway. The question is, do we want to see more asphalt? You know, by telling them to push it further, we're building more asphalt. That means more stormwater runoff. So there are other things that are affected that, while, yeah, is an encroachment the best approach, make it work, this is an unusual lot size. It kind of pans out narrow and widens out. I don't know how this would have been an ideal site for a residential development, you know. So I find the way that of this lot and the applicant working to create, allowing the existing vegetation to exist to provide that buffer to their neighbor and to build it where there's an existing driveway makes sense. I think moving forward, I think we need to have more objective standards to prevent someone from saying, I just want to build it here, give me an encroachment permit. You know, it just means we have to move forward with objective standards to prevent those scenarios and give your commission the tools to deny those.
And if I could just follow up to the applicant, that I appreciate that we're not here looking at a variance permit, that you'd already started building it and then we had to fix it. So I appreciate the fact that you were forward thinking on that. So thank you for that.
Okay, I've got just a clarification. We're talking about being 8 feet, 8.25 feet too close?
Yes.
So if we were to scoot this 8.25 feet over, we would not have that problem?
Yes, if it was 8.25 feet away towards the center of that property, that lot, then they wouldn't need this. But yes, I mean, that's a simple answer.
Okay, I think, all right. I had two numbers here. I had a 6 foot and I had a 8.25. So right now
Yes.
they're 6 foot.
So they're going to be approximately 6.2 feet away from the property line. So out of 15 feet where they're required, they're going to encroach 8.25 into that 15 foot. So I kind of did deduction and both ways so that you can understand how much they're encroaching and then how far they're going to be away from the property line.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you doing the math for me because I would have definitely messed that up. Okay, anyone else want to speak on
Well, there appears to be a house on the property to the north. Do they have any problem? Have they been spoken to?
Thank you, Commissioner Ritter, for that question. So like with any other CUP and public hearing items, we have to send out mailers to a 300-foot radius. I have not received any public comments. So therefore, I would assume they didn't have any. We sent it to all the property owners according to the borough's assessing info.
Was there more comment from the applicant? Ryan, it looked like you had your hand raised.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I would just like to state again that the footage, the 6.75 and 8.25 is just as accurate as I can get using the drawing tool on the KBB parcel viewer, which is what I used to kind of show where on the property I wanted my accessory building. So the encroachment may be a little bit more than what it's showing there. Like I said earlier, I may be just a couple feet from that property marker there, where my two properties, soon to be one, and the property just to the north and west of me, right there, where that corner where they all meet. So I'm not sure how the encroachment permit is written up, if it says that I can only build within the 8.75 feet away from the property line, or if there's an actual number that you guys put in the permit.
So Ryan, in the staff report and the resolution, I use the approximate distance that you provided. So what I'm hearing you say is you potentially might be asking for more, and I would have to write a certain number for the commission to approve. I can't, if I'm going to approve 8.25 and then you come back with 10, I'm going to have to bring it back to the commission. So either you're asking for 10 or you're asking for 9 tonight. Otherwise, if it deviates a lot, I have to bring it back to the commission for their approval. We can't give you a range of approval. Close to,
Okay. So you guys need an exact number right now then?
Approximate, like if we're like 6 inches to a foot, maybe, obviously at the discretion of commission, I would probably report back to them and say, your as-built shown this. Is this something that the commission wants to review? So it's you giving me a number that
Okay.
you can meet for sure.
Yeah, okay. Let's go with 3 feet then. Because like I said, when I drew that up on the parcel viewer, that's just kind of as accurate as I can get with my mouse.
So if I can summarize what the applicant is now asking is that they're requesting their encroachment permit allow them to encroach 12 feet into the 15-foot setback. Therefore, they will be 3 feet away from that west property line. Does that sound right, Ryan?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Tweed.
For Director Mitchell, do we need to make a motion for an amendment then, or, yeah? All right, just to get discussion going, I would make a motion to amend the encroachment distance from 6.75 feet to 3 feet.
I'll second that. And request unanimous consent.
Any objections? Seeing none? Discussion? Yeah, seems pretty straightforward. Okay, so the new, do we need to vote on that, or we're unanimous consent? We're good? No objections to unanimous consent? Nope. That is the amended motion. So we're now looking at 3 feet from the line. All right. Any further discussion on that amended motion? Okay. I can weigh in my 2 cents on it before we vote. I think I was having a hard time with that being 6 feet from, and now being 3 feet from, just for the sake of aesthetics. I think that might be a bit too much for me to be okay with. I think the only part about this is that if that property owner was here and had a problem with it, but they seem to be fine with it, is the only thing that kind of makes it questionable in my mind. But I think, yeah, it's just as easy to move that over and not have this problem with the encroachment. That's where I would stand on this, but that's me. Oh, Commissioner Tweed.
Yeah, I would just kind of echo the same thing. I think I'll support this as it is, but I would encourage the applicant, if it works out, to push that as far away from that property line as it works out for you, even if it means just pivoting it off that front left corner a little bit to make it a little farther away. You never know who that next homeowner will be on that lot to the north, and it just, I think if it's possible to move it a little bit when you're doing it, I think I would encourage you to do it.
Okay, seeing no one else wishing to speak, could we please have the vote?
This is the vote on the main motion as amended. So, Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin,
Yes.
Commissioner Twait,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Chair Halstead,
No.
Commissioner Barboza.
Yes.
Okay, you have 5 yes votes and 1 no vote. Motion passes.
All right, please note there's a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. Which leads us to unfinished business. We have none. I'm going to not read the new business that's already been brought into the consent agenda. We have one new business item, which is discussion/recommendation to council on enactment of ordinance number 3416-2024, an ordinance repealing, reenacting, and renaming Kenai Municipal Code, Chapter 1.90, Standard Procedures for Boards, Commissions, and Committees, enacting Chapter 1.95, Standing Advisory Commissions, repealing Chapters 11.10, Harbor Commission, Chapter 19.05, Parks and Recreation Commission, Chapter 21.20, Airport Commission, enacting Section 14.05.050, Planning and Zoning Commission, qualifications and membership, and approving amendments to the Council on Aging Commission's bylaws to organize, streamline, and improve the efficiency of the city's standing commissions. Is there a motion? Well, it says there's a motion to recommend to council enactment of ordinance number 3416-2024.
I'll make a motion to recommend to council on enactment of ordinance number 3416-2024.
Second.
City Clerk Senior, can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead. So I'm going to stick to the parts of this that pertain to your commission, but I'm going to give you a summary of how we got here. Last August, the council approved a process for board and commission review. And we did a survey of all commissions. Your survey results were given back to you in January. We asked you if you wanted to talk about goals and objectives. You chose not to. So we moved on for the advisory. And I think the part of that why you didn't is because you guys have really clear objectives in code. This is basically, we were attaching our advisory bodies, and you guys have decision-making authority, which is very different. But as we rolled through this process, larger amendments became apparent. And so why we're bringing this to you is because Chapter 190 was standards for commissions, committees, boards, everybody. We are repealing that completely and reenacting a new chapter specific only to advisory commissions of the city. So that means anything that was in the previous 190 that applied to the Planning and Zoning Commission needed to go somewhere else. What better place than Title 14, Planning and Zoning, Chapter 5, Planning and Zoning Commission, and a new section 050, which is membership qualifications and procedures. So this is on page 61 of your packet. Nothing in here is new. It's just a relocation, and the verbiage has been updated to be more clear, categorized properly, and specific just to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So do you guys have any questions about the proposed new 1405050, which is the part of this ordinance that affects you specifically?
Commissioner Petty?
Yes, thank you. Madam Clerk, I would like to, let's see, previously in the ordinances for the planning and zoning, is it actually new that a business owner, one of the seats for planning and zoning can be for a majority owner, business owner who lives outside of the city? Is that a new opportunity that has been added into our planning and zoning, or has that always been around and I was just not understanding that?
Thank you, Commissioner Petty. That was always there. So if you look on page 54 of your packet, section 190.030, paragraph C is what was previous allowed, and that's what we're proposing to repeal. So that was always there.
Okay.
Thank you. We also have Ms. Fikes, Commissioner Fikes on Zoom. If you wish to comment on this, just raise your hand. And any other?
Commissioner Fikes, if you were speaking, we were not able to hear you.
Yeah, all good. Are we going to go line by line, or are you just going to blanket adopt this?
Thank you, through the chair. If you have specific questions about an individual line, I will be happy to reference where it was in the previous code, but none of this is new to the Planning Commission. It was just relocated to an area specific just to you.
Yes, that was what I caught. I didn't know if we were speaking to the other items that were being adjusted, even though they didn't pertain to the commission. That was my only question.
Yep, I think everything is, what we're hearing is everything is the same, verbiage is all the same, just a different spot, just a different part in the book. So any other questions and comments regarding this? All right, so we can call for the vote.
I would like to request unanimous consent.
Request for unanimous consent. Any objections? Seeing none. Moving on. We're going to reports. Planning Director Mitchell, may we have your report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead. Good to see everyone after a long break. Hope you enjoyed it, because we'll probably pick things up here, considering it's the peak season. Right before this meeting, I actually went to the Kenai River Center because they had a public workshop on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, where we're a partnering city with the borough on getting community feedback and coming up with a plan on areas that we want to focus and get the consultants to highlight, and assess and determine where could we improve throughout the borough when it comes to traffic safety. And I want to put emphasis that they're primarily focused on corridors to prevent fatality and death Okay, so it's just not like minor traffic improvement, because improvement can be improved anywhere in traffic throughout the city. So their focus is primarily where we're seeing a lot of accidents, major accidents, severe injuries. And so I highly encourage you, they're going to be doing a virtual public meeting May 22nd from 11:30 to 12:30. I went to it today for the first hour, and I can see definitely how the community can put input and help these consultants kind of guide on what areas. It was mentioned that they can only focus on 20 corridors. That's not a lot for the entire borough. So it's really community feedback. The more they get saying, hey, this corridor needs this. You know, I pointed out some things that I've noticed when you have one lane highways 55 miles and you don't have a dedicated turning lane. It's scary. And it doesn't make anyone want to walk anywhere. I mean, I feel scared driving in a car, let alone trying to walk down these corridors. So, you know, I said my part. They are still looking for feedback and comments. Their comment period is open until May 30th. So you have flyers in front of you. There are extra flyers outside. We also have dedicated a page on the city's page to link it back to the borough. It's on the city manager's page, and it's also on planning and zoning. So if you know anyone, the borough has created a very nice JS page as well. So information is all out there. I think at the end, it's just asking your commission to put the word out and get community input and feedback. For this plan to be successful, because once this action plan, which hopes to be finalized and adopted next June, then we can apply for a grant for implementation. So this is just the plan to designate where we're going to focus our resources, where do we see the need. And then you have another flyer in front of you, the Storefront and Streetscape Improvement Program. The application period is open right now until May 17th at 5 p.m. The first year that we did this last year, we conditionally granted 4 applicants up to $10,000 each. So the grant program is, we'll reimburse you 50% up to a maximum of $10,000 for eligible project sites within certain zones, businesses, and then also on top of that, eligible projects. It has to be kind of from the facade, visible from the street view. So happy to discuss further. We have flyers outside if you need more handouts to pass along, as well as a packet outside in the red folder that has the checklist and the application. I think there's been some misunderstanding or confusion that they have to do everything up front when they submit. This is just, the application period is just saying, hey, what's your vision? What do you want to do? I'm going to review it and make sure it's eligible. Because maybe I come back and say only half of what you want to do is eligible, and then maybe you don't want to do the rest. I'm not going to make you go and get bids completely, because that's a resource that I don't see productive of these applicants' time. And I saw it from the first round. We're still weaving through the first round right now with bids, because just with our seasons, and then most of the contractors are snowbirds who maybe go to Arizona, so then bids are difficult to acquire, to meet, and then again, competing contractors during a peak seasons is another challenge that these applicants get. I definitely have a different recommendation as if we move forward with this on how to make this program successful. And I might as well share with you my ideas on the record, is for the city to hone down on something that we want to see, to alleviate applicants from spending time trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my project? Say for 1 year, we want to see better signage. So maybe we work as a city on a sign contractor and say, hey, we've set aside $50K, let's see how many businesses want to get new signs. And then we kind of work out those bids for them. So ultimately, all we're asking from an applicant is, I want to do this. This is the set amount. Maybe we get a better deal because we're working with a upfront fund. I want to see something like that, because I definitely see the challenge of applying for these grants, the time-consuming consumption that it takes upon these applicants. But anyways, I would love for your commission to pass this word out, take flyers, take the application packet, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to even meet with these applicants on the premise, which I'm doing with one tomorrow, just to take a look, give a visual feedback. They can decide what they want to do. At least I'm letting them know what could qualify, what wouldn't qualify on the spot. Other than that, you know, things are picking up. I'm still wrapping up on the code enforcement software, hoping to go live in June. And then I know work session was this past week. I just want to share with you the only thing that's really changing to planning and zoning budget is due to the increase of a part-time staff. That increases quite a bit from software, extra desktops, subscriptions. And the only other thing is I requested for my part-time staff who's at 20 hours to remain at 24 hours, which mid-year council approved that increase from 20 to 24 hours in the later half of, I think, in December. And I wanted that to continue on in the next fiscal year. So really, that's the only changes to our planning and zoning budget. And I did decrease our, I did decrease our planning and zoning APA conference because I know the time that they usually have it is very inconvenient for most of your commission. So instead, I've reverted back to that subscription for planning commission training through Plan Netizen for new commission moving forward, in which I would love to hear your feedback, how that's going along. Hopefully you're liking it, but I won't point any fingers. I do know when you last sign on. So, or not sign on. I don't have too much other than that. I appreciate your time and good to see everyone back. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Commissioner Petty? Or Woodard, sorry.
Yes, I would like to ask the planning director about our sign, how we allow signs to pop up that aren't in front of businesses, that look like campaign signs that are showing up all over the city. Is there some way to address that?
Is this a certain corridor that you're speaking of, Commissioner Petty?
I'm seeing them all over town.
Okay. I'll have to look into it. I think there is code that references it, that can't remember if there's a time period that they can have it and when. And of course, if there's a sign, then we can address it with enforcement and reach out to individual property owners of such. Obviously, with any sign off the spur, it's a DOT state right-of-way. It's hard to enforce because it's not our right-of-way. So that's why I was asking what corridor you're talking about. Of course, within residential, those are typically the city's right-of-way, and we can enforce it if our sign code says those are prohibited or only allowed during certain time periods.
Thank you. I'll get with you with specifics.
Anyone else? All right, Commission Chair, I have nothing to say, surprisingly. Commissioner Fikes, can I get your report, please? And please note that we're having a hard time hearing you through Zoom. If you could yell at us, that'd probably be better. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Halstead. It is not an easy task doing the Zoom, so I will keep it short and brief. We met in the assembly twice, once in March 22nd and just recently in April. Much like the city, it was short and brief. The last meeting lasted 10 minutes. The two biggest takeaways from those meetings was the upcoming land sale, and some of the comments from the director was a plan to move forward to adjust some of the Title 17 land classifications to try and look at simplifying them to better implement the land sale. And there was a conditional use permit and there was some utility right-of-way vacations, but again, they were both brief meetings. So thank you for the opportunity to attend, and I know it's no fun to try and hear all this.
Thank you, Commissioner Fikes. Any questions? None? Councilmember Douthit, may we have your report, please?
Most certainly. All righty, so at our last meeting, we accepted a donation for the March for Meals event from the Kenai Senior Connections for our $100,000. They might be anticipating even a bigger check next year because it's such a success this year. These funds are always a year behind from the previous event. So these events it's the pie auction and those kind of things and other donations they get throughout the year for these events. So that's a huge help over there for this Kenai Senior Connections and being able to get meals out for all those seniors out of there. We accepted a grant for purchase of some ballistic vests at the police department. And then the animal shelter got a $5,000 donation from Maddie's Fund. So that's always a great donation to be able to see that kind of size of donations coming in and helpful for the animal shelter. They did adjust the minor offense fee schedules. This was kind of a housekeeping thing for parking. Basically, the parking fees for not paying for parking worked out to be less than the actual overnight camping fees at the dip netting. So they changed it from $50 for a parking violation to $100 to encourage people to actually pay, because in theory, if they were to do overnight parking and they decided not to pay, it would have been a lesser fee to not pay than to actually pay. So it is a correctable citation. They can just pay their parking fee and not have to get that as long as they cooperate, but hopefully it'll prevent some of that loopholes. Working on budget. We had a blast of a budget meeting on Saturday all day. I think we got out of here about 6 o'clock. It's always fun, but informative for sure. And then moving forward, the city was able to purchase or move into a purchase agreement with some land down there on the bluff stabilization area. 7.8 acres, mostly of dunes and bluff area that wouldn't be buildable, but it could have been a trespass issue if people wanted to try to enforce it, and they were able to work out a deal for purchase of that to finalize some of that bluff stabilization project. So that is pretty much a synopsis of what we did.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? All right. Additional public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none. Next meeting attendance notification, May 22nd, 2024. Is anyone planning to be absent or attending remotely?
I will be attending via Zoom for both the May 22nd, June 12th, and June 26th meetings.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Ms. Fikes?
No, not fun.
Okay. Commission's comments and questions. Commissioner Barboza.
No comment at this time.
Sorry for killing your name.
I've actually gone back to Ursley, so.
Oh, excellent. I just figured out this one. Now you're really going to throw me for. I have to write everyone's name because I say them wrong every time. But Commissioner Woodard.
I did enjoy the break, and it worked out at a perfect time. So, but good to be back.
Thank you. Commissioner Costin.
I think Commissioner Halstead's doing a bang-up job taking this over just recently, so.
Thank you, sir. Better,
Second.
better than Commissioner Twait, right?
Second best one I've seen in a while, so yeah, absolutely. I have nothing. I would say absolutely, Joe, you're nailing it. Other than your math, maybe when you were trying to put that together. But where'd you go to high school at?
Kenai High.
Yeah. Probably should have kept that quiet and off the record. But anyway, I have nothing else other than that. Good to see everybody again, and look forward to seeing you all other than Vice Chair Costin in 2 weeks.
All right, Commissioner Petty.
I have no comments, thank you.
Commissioner Fikes.
No, thank you.
All right, and that leads me, and actually, to pat myself on the back, I was able to do firefighter training on my time off. So all my weekends and all my nights were spent on cracking the books. So I'm glad I got to take a little reprieve from planning and zoning. But now I know how to save your house from a fire. So you're welcome. All right. I think I lost my place. Being a smart aleck. I guess we're done. No pending items. Seeing no further business before the body, we are adjourned. Thank you. Have a great night.